G'day guys and welcome back to your English Aussie. Today I'm going to talk through whether 4-5-1 is the new meta formation in FPL and who the best defenders, midfielders and forwards are for you to buy ahead of game week 8 with all the statistical data. So strap on your boots and let's dive straight into the video. So first up we have the 4 to 4.4 million defenders. A couple of nice picks on here, and one thing I really want you to look at is the value column here. So the value is the points divided by the price of these defenders, and as you can see, the defenders are excellent value for money. And as we go on through the midfielders and forwards by each of the price points, you can really see what the best picks are and who really stands out so far this season. At the moment, Alderete of Sunderland has been fantastic. 1 goal and 1 assist, along with plenty of defensive contribution points. Sunderland, who have been defending very well. However, their fixture run does start to turn a little bit less nice after game week 11. So if you do have him, he is a hold for me. If you don't have him yet, he's not probably the one that I would be looking to go into. If there was someone from one of these smaller teams that I would be looking at, it is Joe Rodon of Leeds. Leeds have been excellent, specifically at home this year. Joe Rodon with 1 goal, but he has continued to pick up those defensive contribution points, leading to him having 30 points so far this season, and quite a nice value of 7.5. Some other considerations in this range are El Hadji Malik Diouf of West Ham. Now Nuno's come into West Ham. Potentially they may start to improve defensively. Their fixtures start to pick up as well from game week 8. And he definitely could be someone to look at, having picked up already 4 assists so far this season and really looking nice from an attacking perspective. Hartman as well of Burnley. Burnley have some pretty nice fixtures coming up over the next 5 game weeks. Hartman is on corners for Burnley as well. That does give him that assist threat. If Burnley can continue to keep some clean sheets, he might be quite a nice pick going forwards. Some other options just to consider are Maxime de Kuiper of Brighton. However, he did fall out of the Brighton lineup last week, even though he had returned from a slight knock. So someone to just keep an eye on over the next few weeks, but not to bring into the team as of yet. Outside of that, I know a lot of people have a Stev of Burnley. He's just not someone for me that has been picking up enough DEFCON points alongside not being much of a goal threat for Burnley. So for me, I would prefer Hartman at this stage. Some other talking points are Santiago Bueno, both Buenos of Wolves, although their expected goal involvements are based off one particularly very high chance so far this season. So although Wolves' fixtures are very nice, they are still someone to watch for me and not yet to bring into the team. Moving on to the mid-price defenders, and we do have here right at the top of the list Senesi of Bournemouth. He has just been the #1 defender so far this season. I think he's the best possible pick out of all defenders at the moment, and would be my #1 priority moving into game week 8. Bournemouth have a really nice fixture run coming up all the way through to game week 17, through to those AFCON weeks, and I think Senesi at 4.9 million has just been brilliant, picking up DEFCON in almost all of his fixtures so far this season. Did get subbed off a little bit early when Bournemouth were chasing the game this week against Fulham. Otherwise, potentially would have picked up DEFCON again this week. Looking at his value there, you can see 9.39, one of the highest of all the defenders, and value per minute in the next column, one that I've just sort of calculated myself, 15.22, the highest of all defenders. BBPS is the baseline bonus point system, so the sort of bonus points that he would be racking up, excluding clean sheets and excluding goals and assists. So as you can see there, even without goals, assists, and clean sheets, he is someone that has quite high baseline bonus, which means that when he does get clean sheets, when he does get assists, when he does get goals, he will be someone that will be likely to pick up maximum bonus. And even without that, if Bournemouth do keep a clean sheet, he's probably the defender that gets more of the bonus than some of those others. Now, Guay's in there in second place on the list. The reason I don't have him highlighted is I do think that this is just because of his 1 goal and 2 assists so far this season. For me, he's the one of the 3 Palace centre-backs that do pick up the least defensive contribution points. And I think if you are looking at your team from a longer-term perspective here and you don't have a wild card in the bank for that first half of the season, I would be looking to go towards those defenders who are picking up defensive contribution points. Longer term, I do think they outscore the more attacking defenders. The one exception to this rule potentially is a Munoz of Crystal Palace, given that he is able to pick up some defensive contributions as well as pick up some attacking returns for Palace. But we will go on to talk about him a little bit later. So my favourite defenders for Crystal Palace are Maxime Lacroix at 5.1 million and also Richards at 4.5 million. I am struggling to differentiate them on the DEFCON side of things. They both are picking up little bit inconsistent defensive contribution points. However, I do see Richards with a baseline bonus points of 13.43 to Lacroix's 12.14. And although Richards hasn't actually managed to pick up any bonus so far this year, he has been continuing to pick up DEFCON, and I think with the 0.6 million savings, I would go for him over Maxime Lacroix at the moment this year. He is a little bit more of a goal threat, as you can see, with 0.14 expected goal involvements per 90 to Maxime Lacroix's 0.06 as well. So I think for me, Richards just tips the scale and also saves you 0.6 million in that spot. Some other options just to talk about. Chalobah of Chelsea, once he comes back from his ban, could be a really nice pick. 2 goals, 1 assist. Chelsea have been fantastic from corners. Chalobah has also been able to pick up defensive contribution points. And he just looks like quite a nice pick in a Chelsea defence who might be able to continue to pick up a few clean sheets with their good fixtures over the next 5 game weeks. Romero of Tottenham, if you are going from a Tottenham defender, I think both Romero and Van de Ven particularly struggles to pick up those defensive contribution points. Romero is a little bit inconsistent, but does manage to pick them up. If you are targeting Spurs' nice fixture run from a defensive point of view over the next 4, I think Romero over Van de Ven would be where I would go. However, if I was to pick a Spurs defender at this point, I would pay the little bit extra for Pedro Porro, although he has not managed to really get the consistent attacking returns that we would have liked this season. He has managed to pick up DEFCON in some of the games, and the fact that he is also inconsistent with DEFCON does have him a little bit ahead of Romero, given his goal and assist threat that he does bring. Next up is Anderson of Fulham. Again, another defender who does manage to rack up those defensive contribution points consistently, despite not managing to pick up many clean sheets so far for Fulham. I expect him to continue to pick up DEFCON against Arsenal and Newcastle, and then as Fulham's fixtures start to turn a little bit nicer from game week 10, he could be someone that is quite nice all the way through to game week 19. If Fulham can start to pick up some clean sheets over that period, he could be a fantastic pick for you guys. With nice baseline bonus points as well of 12.86, he might pick up some bonus points on top of all of that as well. And finally is Sven Botman of Newcastle. Now, between him and Dan Burn has shifted out to that left-back role for Newcastle in Kieran Trippier's absence. That, to me, makes me think that he will pick up defensive contribution points a little bit less likely. He might be a little bit more of a goal and assist threat. However, I do actually prefer a Sven Botman, 0.2 million cheaper. He's in that centre-back position, along with Malik Thiaw, who is also another consideration, I think also at 4.9 million that you can look at in that Newcastle backline. Those are the 2 that I would be looking at. I don't think Newcastle's fixtures are fantastic at the moment, but from game week 13 onwards, they are really nice, and definitely these are some of the defenders that I would like to get in. Newcastle have been excellent from a defensive standpoint, keeping quite a lot of clean sheets this season. And if you do want to go into the Newcastle defence, I think you can go into Sven Botman right now, who would be a nice pick going forwards. Again, some nice baseline bonus points, which does lead me to believe that he will pick up more bonus points going forwards if he does manage to keep those clean sheets along with the DEFCON that he's getting. Now we're moving on to the expensive defenders, and if you have been enjoying this so far, please remember to give a like and subscribe down below to the channel. It does make a really big difference for small content creators like myself, and I do really appreciate you guys watching this video, giving a like, subscribe, and watching all the way through to the end. Now, on the expensive defenders, as you can see here, the value a little bit less than some of the mid-price defenders, such as a Senesi, such as a Guay. However, I do think Jurriën Timber and Gabriel are the pick of the bunch at the moment for Arsenal. Some really nice fixtures, the best defence in the league. I think Gabriel's definitely a threat from corners, and Jurriën Timber at the moment looks like the #1 pick out of these expensive defenders. He's been super attacking down that right-hand side, links up really nicely with Saka, plays a really nice triangular system with both Saka and Odegaard along that right-hand side, gets into the box, shots on target, crosses into the box, and someone with an expected goal involvements per 90 of 0.4, and that is spread across plenty of the game weeks, not just from one big chance. So I do think Jurriën Timber is my #1 pick from that Arsenal defence. If you are worried about the rotation as we go through into the Champions League fixtures, the international breaks, etc., where there is a lot of football being played as we lead into Christmas as well, there is an ability for Timber to be rotated with Ben White, alongside Calafiori being rotated with Miles Lewis-Skelly. And I do think Gabriel is a little bit more nailed over that period. So if you are worried about that, you could go to Gabriel. I think they are both fantastic picks in that Arsenal side. From an attacking perspective, I do think Timber is a little bit nicer, and I'm not yet convinced by Gabriel's defensive contribution points to put him ahead of Jurriën Timber. I think they're very close as defenders, and either of them would be fantastic picks. Calafiori, I think, is a little bit behind the two of them. However, if you did watch the Arsenal game this week, it was really interesting that he played in a slightly different role, similar to how when Caicedo played at right back for Chelsea, he used to invert into that defensive midfield, similar to Rico Lewis at Manchester City, inverting from a fullback role into the defensive midfield when they were in possession. You saw Calafiori move from that left back role into that central midfield area for Arsenal when they were in possession, to bring an additional player into that midfield, allow them to be a little bit more attacking, allow the likes of Eze and Odegaard that they did play before Odegaard come off to be a little bit more attacking, to go a little bit more forward and to create more chances for Arsenal. What that leads to for that Arsenal team and for Calafiori, we'll have to look at. He did get into some nice positions, not quite as attacking as Timber in my opinion, but that might lead to him continuing to be a good option for Arsenal. But for the time being, I do prefer Timber and Gabriel. Next up on this list is Daniel Munoz of Crystal Palace. Now, for me, he is someone that, although he is a little bit inconsistent with his defensive contribution points, does manage to pick them up from time to time. And his attacking threat for Crystal Palace, for me, does allow him to be a really nice pick. I think he gets into some superb attacking positions for both goal and assist perspective. And there was a point last week for Crystal Palace that he was on a goal, a clean sheet, defensive contributions, and bonus points. He would have potentially picked up a 17-pointer last week until Palace did concede those 2 goals to Everton. So there is potential for him to get some absolutely massive hauls for Crystal Palace, and someone I would definitely consider as a pick going forwards. James Tarkowski, again, a bit of a defensive contribution magnet, someone that I would look at in your team longer term. I do think the Everton fixtures aren't particularly fantastic, but they start to turn a little bit nicer from game week 10, and definitely Tarkowski is someone that you can consider into that side. Next up on here for me is Ibrahima Konate of Liverpool. Probably someone that not a lot of people are talking about, but if you do watch the Liverpool games closely, which I do, you will see that the opposition attackers are tending to target Konate here. For example, in the Palace game that Liverpool lost, Mateta really stuck tightly to Konate and was trying to work off him. This does lead essentially to Konate having more defensive contributions because he is involved in more defensive actions as the opposition strikers are targeting him over Virgil van Dijk. And to me, although he has made a few more individual errors than Virgil van Dijk so far this season, is actually a better pick from an FPL perspective due to him being involved in more defensive actions. Also at 0.6 million cheaper, you do manage to save a little bit more money for Liverpool. On top of that, I do think from offensive standpoint and from those sort of corners and set pieces, you have seen a lot this season. Van Dijk actually screening for Konate off the ball to be able to get into some attacking positions for headers. And actually, he probably should have scored a couple of goals already this season for Liverpool in the league. So for me, Konate is my favourite Liverpool pick at the back. I think he's better for DEFCON. I think he's probably better for goal potential at the moment this season. Outside of that, there's not many other picks that I really like in this list. So let's move on to the midfield. And this is the 4.5 to 5.4 million midfielders. Quick reminder, smash that like button, subscribe down below if you have been enjoying the video so far. Firstly, we do have Josh Collin of Burnley up here. Now, he has been both racking up those defensive contributions in almost every game so far for Burnley. 1 goal and 1 assist coming early in the season in the same game. However, apart from that, hasn't looked particularly attacking for Burnley. However, has been able to pick up bonus points and those defensive contributions to keep him ticking along. For me, I'm not sure he is the pick that I would be going for. I think there are some nicer options in that 5.5 million to 7 million range, which we will go on to look at. Value of around 7.4, 7.5. Some of these other guys around 6.6. As we were seeing for the defenders, their values were a lot higher across the board. And this does lead me on, and as we get to the forwards, we will see why I think potentially a 4-5-1 could be the new meta formation in FPL this year. So some other options here in this cut price midfield if you are looking for them. Statch of Leeds, he's sort of on the direct free kicks for Leeds at the moment. Longstaff is on the more indirect free kicks, the crosses, the corners, etc. for Leeds, and someone that does get into those attacking positions as well. Leeds have a really nice run of fixtures over these next 5 game weeks, so if you are looking for sort of some cut price players, some of these lead players might be the ones to look for. Granit Xhaka of Sunderland, really big impact he's having at Sunderland at the moment. Captain of the team, heartbeat of the team, really good for those defensive contributions. Managed to pick up 3 assists so far this season, is really a key player in that Sunderland side. And James Garner of Everton, playing in that defensive midfield role for Everton, has been really nice. Picked up 1 goal and 1 assist, along with some DEFCON points so far this season. I do think that Everton's fixtures are a little bit tricky, and therefore probably not someone that I would end up going for, but definitely an option for you to consider in the future, potentially from game week 10 onwards. Moving on to the mid-price midfielders, and I think there is a lot of value here. You can see Caicedo up there at 7.9. He's got some great baseline bonus as well, given that he's involved in just so many actions for Chelsea. He's such a key player, and really has been racking up those defensive contribution points as well. 45 points so far this year, 3 goals already for Caicedo, more than he picked up last season. I think he's such a fantastic pick. And around this 5.5 to 7.4 million price point, I think he's probably my number 1 pick at 5.7 million. Jadon Anthony at Burnley was on a really nice run at the beginning of the season. 4 goals, 1 assist. Burnley still continue to have some nice fixtures. So he is definitely someone that you can consider over the next 5 game weeks, and see whether he can continue his fantastic form. Enzo of Chelsea, again, for me, someone that I think is a really nice pick, especially if Cole Palmer is out. Enzo will be on penalties, he's on set pieces, he's on some corners. There are so many routes to points for Enzo. Not only that, but with Palmer out, he plays in the 10 role, he gets into the box. Even with Palmer in the side, he does manage to get himself into the box, into those goal-scoring opportunities. 3 goals, 2 assists so far this season. Occasionally does pick up some defensive contribution points. He just has every route to points imaginable, and definitely when Chelsea have a good fixture run, would be someone I would consider into that midfield alongside Caicedo, with a double Chelsea midfield, just because they're able to get points together. Even if Chelsea don't score goals, they could get defensive contribution points, both of them, and continue to tick along nicely in your midfield. Next up, Declan Rice and Gravenberch, and at this point you're probably tired of me talking about defensive contribution points. Declan Rice, someone that can pick them up, Gravenberch as well. Not on a consistent basis. I do think these guys have benefited definitely from that addition this year, but also have been getting forwards into more offensive positions for both of their teams so far this year, and Declan Rice being very key given that he's on a lot of set pieces. What you've seen in the Premier League this year is there has been way more set piece goals from all of the teams, and this is why Declan Rice is such a nice pick at 6.5 million. For me, doesn't quite have enough value to be getting into the team. I do prefer a Caicedo, I do prefer an Enzo, and I just don't like taking up one of those Arsenal spots in the team where I think that two defenders are really nice, and potentially a Bukayo Saka in that midfield for me for the mass attacking returns is my favourite. However, definitely someone to consider as a differential pick. Iliman Ndiaye for Everton, obviously on penalties for them. 3 goals, 1 assist so far. Everton with a couple of tricky fixtures over the next couple of weeks. Probably isn't someone that I'd be looking to bring into the side until game week 10, but definitely someone I would be holding if you don't have him already. Grealish as well, obviously looking to score more goals. He spoke about in the interview pre-game how he wanted to have more shots on target. Did get that last-minute winner against Crystal Palace. Was a little bit lucky, but definitely someone, again, you can consider from game week 10. Ismail Assar just continues to get returns, I think, in each of his last 4 games for Crystal Palace. Again, someone whose fixtures I think pick up a lot from game week 10, but someone that I don't think is an issue if you do want to bring him into your side from game week 8. And finally, Reinders of Manchester City. I think, for me, someone that's at the tail end of his usefulness, especially considering that Manchester City's fixture runs get a little bit more difficult from 9 through to 12 before picking up again from game week 13 onwards. So, yep, looking at Reinders for me, he's probably a hold for the next couple of weeks, unless you're on a wild card, and then I'd look to be moving him out of that side. And finally, moving on to the expensive midfielders, and I think there's a lot of great value in this mid-price range for sure, and this is definitely where I am actually looking at focusing on the majority of my 5 midfielders. In the offensive side of it, we do have Semenyo, who's now at 7.9 million. I think he's a must-have in FPL, which is not something I thought I'd hear myself say this year, but he is just far and above everyone else as the best midfielder so far in FPL this season. Again, lots of routes to points, has been on free kicks, has been on penalties without Cliver on the pitch, has been even picking up some defensive contribution points, 6 goals, 3 assists. He's been on fire, and you really do have to have him in your team at this moment. Mo Salah really struggling this season. I know Liverpool have a really nice fixture run coming up, and I think Manchester United is probably one of the games where I think Mo Salah does have a chance to really succeed. But outside of that, I think he's had a really poor start to the season. Liverpool have look a little bit lost offensively when Ekitike is not on the pitch. He's been far and away their best player so far this season. Cody Gakpo, not been too bad in there for Liverpool. 7.5 million, maybe someone you'd like to take a punt on, but I think they really have struggled this season. Bruno Fernandes, again, we could be talking a different story if he could finish his penalties. Obviously, his expected goal involvements per 90 are massively inflated by the penalties that he has had so far this season. He could easily have been up there above 40 points if he could have put those away, and maybe we would be having different discussions at this point. I think Manchester United from game week 10, again, another one of those teams whose fixtures pick up at that point, and at that point is maybe we'll have another consideration around Bruno Fernandes, but just not yet in my team for now. Eberechi Eze, it was really nice to see Arsenal play dual 10s with him and Odegaard this week. I think he could be a really nice pick if he maintains his place in that Arsenal side. I think he could be really crucial to ticking them along and giving them another offensive option. However, I do love Bukayo Saka. As I mentioned last week before the Arsenal game, I thought he would be on penalties. If you did watch the game versus Newcastle, when they had that penalty, he picked up the ball, looked like he was going to take it, and then it got ruled out for VAR. We saw then this week for Arsenal, he did take the penalty over Gyökeres. That does make him a really nice pick in this side. Everything still goes through Saka down that right. A little bit more now going centrally with Eze in that side, but he is such a crucial player in that Arsenal team. Odegaard obviously came off a little bit with another knock for Arsenal, but he's looked fantastic whenever he's been on the pitch. And when and if he does come back from injury, he could be a nice differential pick into that side. Finally, moving on to the forwards, and just remember this sort of value range of sort of 6 to 8 for the midfielders, and maybe sort of a 7 to 9 to maybe even to 10 for the defenders. As we go on to the forwards, you can see that value really starts to drop off. You can see here Foster really the only guy that I would be looking at that 5 to 5.4 million range, given that he's the only one that really has consistent minutes in that team. Into the mid-price forwards, we do have Richarlison still leading the way on points here. Ego Thiago at Brentford managing to pick up a couple of goals. Maybe someone you'd like to look at in that sort of cut price range at 6.1 million. I think Isidore's been really nice for Sunderland so far this season, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin at 5.5 million for Leeds with some really nice fixtures. Definitely could be someone that you might want to be looking at going forwards. Unfortunately, his finishing has been appalling again this season, and he's missed some really big chance for Leeds. But he has been getting into those positions, and like I've said of Semenyo in previous seasons, despite the bad finishing, if you keep getting into those positions, you will continue to score points in FPL at some point. And finally on this list, the other one I wanted to talk about, the box is in the wrong place here, but it would be a Jørgen Strand-Larsen of Wolves. Wolves do have a really nice fixture run coming up. Strand-Larsen has come back from his injury and looks like he will be the mainstay at number 9 in that Wolves team, most likely on penalties from them, and could be a nice differential pick going forwards. Outside of that, I think the value of these players is just not very high. You can see here 1 to 5 from a value perspective, and only really sort of the Isidores, maybe Dom Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison as a value per minute are players to be looking at. Into the expensive forwards, and of course we have Erling Haaland top of this list. 70 points. He's a must-have in your team, just in great form for Manchester City so far this season. Given that we have such great value in the midfield, in the defence, I think that you can afford to spend big on Erling Haaland, especially if you don't have Mo Salah into your team. Other options here, I think João Pedro is really nice with Chelsea's fixture run. Nottingham Forest could be potentially a team to target going forwards. As Ange has now come in, they're starting to change their defensive setup a little bit. Chelsea have some other really nice fixtures over the next 5 game weeks. Jared Bowen, almost the forgotten man a little bit. With Nuno, I think he's going to make him in again to even more of West Ham's key player. Some nice fixtures for West Ham coming up, and if Nuno can improve that West Ham side, Jared Bowen at 7.7 million now, he has dropped in price, is now looking like someone that could be a nice little pickup. Finally, Walter Marder of Newcastle. Newcastle have just a really nice fixture run coming up all the way really through to game week 22. Definitely someone that I would be looking at going forwards. Picked up a goal, was on penalties with Gordon off the pitch, although expect Anthony Gordon to be taking the penalties outside of that. I think could be a really nice pickup. Newcastle look like they're changing the way they're playing a little bit to get more balls into the box to him. And they're going to hopefully find a way of scoring a few more goals as this season goes on. Liverpool struggled a little bit. I do really like Ekatike, but looks like his minutes are going to be rotated quite heavily with Isak at the moment, and I really don't like that going forwards. Gyökeres has not impressed me for Arsenal whatsoever. I really don't like the look of him in the Premier League up against big, strong defenders. He hasn't been able to bully them around the same way that he was able to at Sporting and, for example, in the Champions League, where it's a little bit less physical. You're able to play openly and transition a little bit more, and therefore I do prefer a Bukayo Saka to Victor Gyökeres, especially considering he's no longer on penalties for Arsenal. That about rounds up what I've got to talk about on these players. As you've seen, looking at the new meta for formation, if you are on a wild card, what I really would look to recommend is that you have a sort of Mark GUI in there, especially if you've already used your bench boost. Have like that 4.3 bench fodder forward out there. They really have the least value for money at the moment. You can see even Erling Haaland at that sort of 5 value. Value per minute maybe looking a little bit nicer up at 8, and for Waltermard at 11. You would expect that to decrease over the course of the season. However, outside of Haaland and maybe a little flurry from Waltermada, you're really not seeing a lot of good value out of these forwards. I think Haaland plus one other forward that you pick based on fixtures or form, for me, is the way to go in that forward line, having one forward that rotates in with your 5 midfielders. I think in the midfield, you've got a really good bunch of mid-price midfielders that you can pick. Semenyo's a key pick, along with maybe a Caicedo and Enzo of Chelsea with the nice fixture run. Potentially an Ismail Assar, and if you want, I still think Elliot Anderson at Nottingham Forest at 5.4 million now can continue to be a good pick and pick up those DEFCON points. Outside of that, you've got a lot of other nice midfielders that you could be looking for. And in the defence, I think it's really important this year to be big at the back again. I think one of those Arsenal defenders really key, those mid-price 4.5 to 5 million to 5.5 million defenders even, especially the ones that are picking up defensive contribution points, are going to be really crucial to your FPL teams. And I think playing 4 at the back is a way of continuing to pick up points each week. Given that you're able to play those defenders against more difficult teams where you expect them to pick up those defensive contribution points. If on top of that they do manage to pick up a clean sheet, they do manage to pick up a goal, you're looking at really massive returns for those defenders. We haven't really seen that in the midfield from those midfielders this season, picking up those big returns, and I think the defence is the place where you might be able to get that this season on a more consistent basis. I think 4-5-1 is what you should be looking at going forwards into your wild card. I think 2 nice forwards and 1 bench fodder. You can rotate a 4-5-1, 4-4-2 in a lot of game weeks, and in the odd game week where you don't have that nice defender rotation option, you can look for a 3-5-2. I think that's the way to go so far this season. Thank you guys so much if you have watched this video all the way to the end. It does really help my channel if you do. Smash that like button, subscribe down below if you have enjoyed this so far. This has been your English Aussie. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys later. Have a great game week, guys.